everybody, what's up? It's RobLive, and we are back with another inspirational interview. I'm really excited for our guest today because I've been talking to him about creating a podcast. Randy, about 2-3 years we talked about this?
Yeah, about 3 years ago.
And we keep running into each other, and finally it's here. One Take Films has made it possible to have it right here in our home studio. And I told Randy, hey, when I get my act together, I'm going to hit you up for an interview. And so, without further ado, Randy Haro. How you doing, Randy?
I'm doing fine. Just glad to be here, actually.
Yeah, no, I'm very glad to have you here. I told you in the green room, aka my living room, right? Remember what I said? I said this is going to be an amazing story to share. You know, and because I know some of the details of your life, but to hear all of it put together and the way it all played out for you is just nothing less than inspirational, which is exactly the type of interview that we look for here at RobLive. So we're gonna start from the top, okay?
Sure.
Where were you born?
Los Angeles, California.
L.A. Is that why we're rocking the Dodgers?
I rock all LA.
All
sports
foot
teams,
LA.
everything. Yeah.
So I got Rams or Chargers? Which way you go?
Rams.
Rams, because they've been there for a while, huh?
Yeah. Even though they left, I still follow them.
To St. Louis.
Yeah.
So was there any love when the Raiders were there for a couple years?
1 year. Yeah, they won the Super Bowl.
Was it 1 year and they want to see? Oh my God.
2 years actually, but they won the Super Bowl the first year they came.
Oh really? And then okay. And did you go to the games and stuff? Check it out.
No, I go to Dodger games though.
Dodgers.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know. We haven't talked about your age yet, but were you there for the Steve Garvey and the Fernando Valenzuela days?
Yeah, I was playing baseball at that time.
Oh, you played too?
Yeah.
Man, what a great time to be in LA, right? For all those guys.
Yeah. It was a different time.
Different. So you played baseball growing up?
Yeah, I played baseball and basketball.
Nice. Okay, so you're born in LA. Now we know LA is a vast city. So specifically, what area?
The suburb of Baldwin Park, California.
Baldwin Park.
Yeah.
Definitely heard of Baldwin Park, and that's San Gabriel Valley, correct?
It is.
Okay. So you're born there. You going to school, elementary school there in Baldwin Park?
I did. I went to Ernest R. Getty's school.
What's it called?
Ernest R. Getty's.
Ernest R. Getty's. Anyone out from LA know that elementary school? Shout out to that small school, Ernest R. Getty's.
Yeah.
Elementary. I don't know if Randy looks familiar to you. Class of, do you remember?
81.
Class of 81. That's when you graduated 8th grade?
No, that's.
Is it K through 8 or is it K through 6?
No, that class of 81's my high school year.
Oh, okay. Class of 8. All right.
Shoot, I was in school in the 60s.
Okay, nice. That's a good time to be in school.
It's a different
history wise, right?
It was just a different time.
Wow.
Was
there a lot of that the you know how we see now when we look back at the 60s the hippie movement and was Woodstock and all that? Were you guys getting any of that? What was LA looking like in the 60s?
So Baldwin Park was predominantly white and Hispanic. There was only 3 African American families at that time.
Okay.
So growing up, I went to school. There was like 2 African Americans going to our school, and the rest was white and Mexican.
Okay, wow.
American, yeah.
So not quite the diversity that we see in Los Angeles now.
No.
That was a different time. So it was the 60s.
Yeah, and it's just being in school at that time was different, man. Just the teachers were nicer.
Oh, were they? I thought you were going to say they were real strict.
When I got to high school, it was different. But
okay.
Elementary school, you had some really nice teachers, and I had some favorite teachers. And then when I got to junior high, there was some good teachers, and there was some teachers that just started not caring. And that was back in the 70s.
And you could feel that from them, or were they pretty obvious about it?
No, I mean, high school I could feel it, but high school I was making excuses not to go to school.
Okay.
And so I did my best. I love to read and write and spell.
So you enjoyed school for the most part?
Yeah, it was kind of like getting away from the house because early on in my age, a lot of stuff started happening from 6 years old on up.
At home?
The dynamics at home, yeah. But prior to that, I remember a lot of good times. We went to the Wax Museum. We went to Disneyland.
You went to Disneyland?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you went to Disneyland at the time when it was the tickets, right? So for those who, the younger audience out there, back in the day with Disneyland, it wasn't you paid an admission price and you could get on every ride. You paid an admission price, but then you purchased tickets. And so those tickets had to be individually passed out per attraction.
Yeah.
So the e-ticket rides were the really fun ones, right? That was the Pirates of the Caribbean and It's a Small World. So everybody wanted the e-tickets. So there's a term now that you might hear get thrown around on the internet sometimes called e-ticket attraction. And that's a reference to Disneyland's best tickets.
Yeah.
So when you went, it was tickets, right?
It was tickets, and then we used to go to the wrestling matches over there in downtown LA.
Oh, like the professional wrestling?
Yeah,
Nice.
my
Wow.
dad was an avid wrestling fan, and so he would take me to see all the wrestlers that came out on TV.
Was this like the Hulk Hogan
It was
and
called no, it was
before them?
Before then, yeah.
Oh,
Lucha Libre.
Mil Máscaras.
Yeah, Mil Máscaras,
I remember
John
that guy.
Toles,
You're going way
Corbin
back.
Goliath. Yeah, I grew up, and then I found out Freddie Blassie, he used to bite the guys on the forehead, and I was there one day, and I asked my dad, "Dad, is that real blood coming off of his head?" And my dad goes, "No, me, he's got a pill in his mouth that he pops, and it comes out with red blood."
Oh, the theatrics. That's
And
slick.
so ever since then, I just stopped going to wrestling.
It just ruined
I
it.
didn't want to go. I'm like, nah. I got into boxing,
Yeah.
so
Did you box yourself or are you more
I
of a
trained a
fan?
little bit when I was 15, 16 years old at the boys club
Okay.
and sparred with a few older gentlemen, and then that was it.
That was it.
Yeah,
So I want to go back now to um, home life.
yeah.
Did you grow up with mom and dad in the home together? Or?
I did for the first 6 years of my life. 7 years, it was okay. At 6 years old, my mom and dad separated. And my dad moved out, and at 7 years old, my mom moved out, and she moved in with her boyfriend. So you have children 14, 13, 12, 7, and 2 living in the house by themselves.
Oh,
Yeah. And,
the
and
14-year-old was,
she was a caretaker.
oh, wow,
She's a
Randy.
freshman in high school.
And your mom just,
She just left with her boyfriend and moved in with him.
was there any conversation with you guys
She
or
was
she
just
just,
gone one day, and
oh, man.
I used to ask for her. My sister tell me, "Stop asking for her. She's not coming back."
Oh my
And I was like,
God.
so my dad found out.
I can't even imagine.
It was tough. I mean, I was kind of like a quiet kid.
Yeah.
I wasn't angry. I wasn't, I just was quiet and taking it all in and wondering what all this was about. And my dad found out and he moved back in. And my mom comes and says, "What are you doing here? Get the heck out of the house. I told you you don't belong here." And he got mad. They had an argument. "Well, you're not taking care of the kids. Why did you leave them here? What kind of person are you?" And she said, "Okay, I'll stay. I promise." And he left again, and she left again. So,
Just a lot of instability at an early age, right?
yeah, and the only time I saw her was every 2 weeks when the food stamps and the welfare check came. And she would come, and I remember my sister would argue with her. She would come and she would ask for the check. And she'd say, "Where's the check?" And my sister said, "Well, we need some clothes and shoes. I already bought you some 2 months ago. You're not getting no money this time. Here's the food stamps." And I was like, prior to that, we weren't on any kind of, welfare or any kind of
This
aid.
was the first time on government
Yeah,
aid.
yeah, because they both work. My mom and my dad work. And so I was like, okay, well, this dynamic is shifting. I
Yeah.
just don't know where it's going to end up at, but all that started happening, and then my older brothers, who are my half brothers
Yeah.
from a different father, they started messing up and using drugs and going to juvenile hall.
Were they in the house with you guys or they were living with your
Well,
dad?
they were pretty much out in the streets and then going to jail, so they pretty much weren't there half of the time.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
And this is from age 6 on when the instability starts for you.
yeah.
And so school became the stability for you, would you say?
School, yeah, school
constant,
was
a consistent.
But it was at school that I first started lying. They would say, we need to talk to your parents. It's parent teacher night, and you need to have them come."
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, they can't come. They work nights. I'm sorry."
And
And
was that more out of shame, or was it to protect the family from the foster system? What do you think was the fueling?
it was a lot of things. It was shame.
Yeah,
It was not wanting to be exposed that we didn't have no parents,
yeah,
and stuff like that. And it was hard, uh, but it just became natural after a while because I didn't have no parents. So like I never lived with my mom or my dad after 6 and 7 years old, and so there I was. My sister practically raised me from 7 all the way until I went into prison. And then when I got out of prison, I told her I'm not going home, you know. But growing up as a child, my brothers started getting into the gang lifestyle, and so I started watching them, and I started idolizing my older brother, one of my older brothers, and his homeboys, and so I started,
hanging with them.
no, just looking at them and going out and listening to them,
Was this
and
Baldwin Park?
yeah,
What were the gang? What was the gang
it was
affiliation in
called
that area?
Northside Baldwin Park.
No, okay.
Yeah.
And so the both brothers were involved.
Uh,
The two stepbrothers were both
there's
involved.
3 of them, but
Okay,
uh, one of them deeply, the other one more or less was doing fixing cars and stealing cars, and the other one was getting high on heroin.
wow.
Yeah.
So all three were kind of on a different
Oh
path.
yeah.
Out of school, right?
Yeah.
They weren't in.
Got drafted to go to Vietnam, and they messed up to get out. Like literally, 2 of them got drafted, and they didn't want to be in the service.
And got the discharge.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And during this time, this is when you were in grade school, right?
Yeah.
And then, right, how old were you when you started to hang out with the older brothers in the gang?
Not my older brothers per se, but my friends
Yeah,
because they kind of grew up like we did. One parent missing or domestic violence or alcoholism or whatever,
yeah.
and so we just started hanging out together.
That became, would you say that became kind of like your family?
Oh yeah, yeah, because we cared about each other and we kicked it with each other, and we grew up through the school system with one another, and we started representing the gang lifestyle.
At
And
what age did you officially become a member?
I want to say I was 13, maybe 12, and we put a hose out on the front yard of my friend's house,
Yeah.
and we had to walk the gauntlet and get beat up to be part of the gang.
So walk alongside the hose and you not
You,
stray from
you
that and
don't,
take
yeah,
blows,
just to keep walking,
and everybody's just taking blows and you gotta
yeah,
handle it.
and everybody had to walk it,
Wow.
yeah, and that was my introduction. Uh, I remember when I was, and it was even exposed to violence earlier than that, because when I was like 8, I had a friend. He was Caucasian. He's a white guy.
Yeah.
He was my friend, and he lived down the street. And he came. We used to have a fort across the street that we built in a field. And my brother was with his friends, and his name's Tommy. Tommy goes, Randy, come here. And my brother goes, call him over here. And I said, why? He goes, call him over here. So I called him. Tommy, come here. He came, and my brother goes, I don't like him. Beat his ass.
Your own friend.
Yeah.
So you had to beat up your
No,
friend.
so I asked him why.
Yeah.
Like, why? And he said, because I said so. And I hesitated. Then he got down to my level and he said, if you don't beat his ass, I'm going to beat your ass.
Wow.
So I said, ooh. So I took off on Tommy and started hitting him, and Tommy started crying. And he took off down the street to his house. And my brother pulled me aside and he said, this is the way it is. And this is what you're going to have to do now to live out in these streets. So this is what you got to do. So I don't ever want to hear you crying that someone kicked your butt or, all this other stuff. And so that was my, like, kind of my brother's initiation. And then later walking the hose with my friends, and then I think when I was 15 or 16, I started carrying a handgun.
Wow. At that age.
Yeah.
Now, when the gun was given to you by your brother or the
No,
gang or
I bought it.
just off the
Yeah,
streets?
bought off the
And
streets.
what were you doing for money at that time?
I was working. It was a after school program for low income,
Yeah.
and I was working at the boys club, and that's where I used to train.
Oh, okay.
And so I bought a motorcycle when I was 16.
So you're pretty self-sufficient at an early age.
Well, I tried. I tried. You know, if I'd had more sense, I might have
Yeah.
got further back then. But yeah, I took a detour.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had a motorcycle. It was a Honda 554. It was a 1978. And I bought a gun. And I just remember hating the enemy, which was the east side of Baldwin Park. And we would be at war. And so my mission was to hurt them.
Now, did you see him at school? Did you guys share school with these
After ninth
guys?
grade, I quit.
So you left school at ninth grade,
Ninth grade, I quit.
what was that decision based off of?
I blamed the teacher being a racist, and you know he was only probably trying to teach me, and I was making it hard on him.
Yeah.
And so he said, "You need to get out of my class." But I said, "Ah, he's racist. You know, he's this and that," and made excuses. And yeah, I quit. Never went back to school after
Did you
that for
see?
many years.
So it kind of shifted because when you were younger, you saw school as a source of stability, and as you got older, you saw it as a source of what?
Uh, Too
Could,
difficult, man.
I see.
And because I didn't study in
Elementary.
junior high school,
Yeah.
like science and math, I didn't study too much, but they still passed me. And I was
Moving you
failing. I
along.
was literally failing in junior high, and they passed me anyways. And they passed me to the ninth grade, and it just made it even more difficult because I wasn't understanding. And even though I liked to read and write and spell, and
Yeah.
I was in the chorus when I was a kid. I
Oh
used to
wow.
sing, yeah.
The
I used to
choir.
sing, yeah.
Did you play an instrument at all too?
I tried, but I didn't. I didn't
Didn't
practice.
catch.
I didn't practice. I
I don't
was
know
like,
why I feel guitar when I look
no,
at
I
you.
was a saxophone.
Saxophone.
Yeah,
Yeah. Saxophones were big in the 80s. Remember that?
yeah.
Everyone had a sax solo in their songs. So, getting back to ninth grade, you walk away from school, and the plan now is to be with the gang full time, or what
Yeah.
was your
Oh
plan?
yeah, we're already hanging out. We're smoking pot. We're drinking.
Is your
And
brother part of this now? It's just you and your
no,
friends.
my brother's older than me,
So
like
they
12,
he
12
had his
years. He had
own
his own
homies.
age group.
Okay.
And I had my own age group, but he was always in and out of prison, so I always looked up to him no matter what.
Did you ever go visit him?
Once
And where were your parents during this time?
they were gone. My
Just
dad ended up moving when I was like 10 to Yuba City,
okay.
north of Sacramento.
Oh yeah. I don't know why I was thinking Arizona for some.
No, Yuba City, north of Sacramento,
Okay.
and he came before he left, and he asked me. He says, "I'm gonna move." I go, "Where you going?" He goes, "I'm gonna go to Yuba City up north.
Yeah.
Do you want to come?"
Oh wow.
Yeah,
He wanted to take you with?
he did.
Wow. Were you shocked that he was inviting, or
No, I would just like
because it seemed like he
thinking.
wasn't a part of your life locally?
Oh, he loved me, man. My dad, when he was around, and even as I was growing up
Yeah.
in elementary and junior high, on the weekends when he was a landscaper and he cut trees and he did all that, and he would go up to like the hill, Laguna Hills. He would go to Covina Hills
Yeah.
and cut all these pads up. And he had this favorite place he would go because they'd call him like once a month. And there was a maid there, and she always used to ask for me because I used to go with him. He
Oh,
had a
okay.
pool and everything.
So you spent some time with him.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I think if I'm honest, I would say that my dad showed me more love than my mother. And my dad took me everywhere with him.
Yeah.
You
Now,
know.
what about the other siblings? Were they also included with your father, or were you
No,
had the special?
after that, they were like older. They were,
Oh,
they
okay.
were like
You were the youngest, right?
with him. Yeah,
And then you had a 2-year-old sister. You said I think it was two, and then
brother.
Oh, he was a 2-year-old
Yeah,
brother.
but that brother was from another dad.
Oh, I see. Got it.
My mom ended up having children from four different men.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I used to go with him and go swimming in their pools and stuff.
Oh,
And the
wow.
maids were nice to me, and they were like, "You want to go swimming?" I go, "I don't have no trunks." They go in your calzones.
That's your chonies, right? Yeah,
So I would be up in there, My
swimming.
dad would say, "Be careful," But when he left,
Yeah,
he asked me, "Did you want to go?" And it wasn't years later till I went into therapy that my therapist made me realize that that's an odd thing to ask a child.
yeah,
Do you want to go with me? When he knew that your mom was not in the house anymore,
yeah.
it was his right to say, "I'm taking you."
That's a good point. I never thought about it that way.
She really opened up a can of worms there because I was
Yeah,
getting upset with her.
yeah,
She's my friend. She actually lives in Hanford, and the therapy I was going through when I was in prison,
yeah.
and she used to work in there, and she just asked me, "Don't you seem it's kind of odd, Randy, that instead of your dad asking you, he should have just took you. He's your dad. He has every right to do what he needs
Yeah.
to do with you. And if you're abandoned, he could have took you."
Oh, is your alarm going now?
I don't know. It's my phone. I just, but
Someone's calling. So I that just hit me hard right there. That You just said that because I feel like there are certain situations that when we're kids, we look at like, oh, it's our choice or our obligation. But the reality is that in most cases, the adult or the parent should just take the lead and make moves, right?
yeah,
I remember the same thing when my parents were divorced, right? Separating. And when we were younger, they had a couple of, where they would go to different places. And I think, the question was, oh, well, who do you want to go with?
yeah,
Right? Put it on us where
yeah.
it should have been, hey, you're with me or you're
You're
with me.
going.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Take that off of the kid.
I think part of it was he was afraid to try to just snatch me up and take me because he was still trying to get his green card
Oh,
and be
okay.
legal. Okay, he's from Jalisco.
At least,
Yeah,
okay. And so he
and
was concerned that maybe if he got
my
deported, you'd
mom
be
would
left.
no, my
Oh, that
mom
she would
would
report him.
report him. Yeah, and he was
Wow.
afraid, I think, and he already had a another woman that
Yeah.
he had brought from where he grew up in Mexico,
Jalisco.
and he ended up having three more kids that are my brothers and sisters, and she had two, so there's five, and they all lived up there up
So he
north.
built a life in Yuba City. Now, what was your reasoning behind saying I'm not going to go?
Because my siblings were there in LA, my sisters,
And
my
you wanted to
brothers.
look after them?
Well, I was part of that unit,
Yeah,
and that's what I wanted to do.
to be around them.
Yeah.
So throughout this time, from junior high, high school, and stuff, you're still looking after your siblings, and you have a
Well, I'm not. They're
relationship.
looking after me, and I'm out there banging now and doing my thing.
Oh, okay.
Growing up, and at 16, I did. Me and another guy did a robbery, and they busted us, and they sent me to juvenile camp. They gave me I want to say 2 years,
Is
one
this the
year
type
camp,
of camp where it's the hard
a
labor
fire
or?
camp,
Okay.
discipline. I mean, you're gonna shave, you're gonna make your bed, you're gonna iron your clothes, you're gonna look sharp,
Yeah.
and your bed's gonna be nice, and you're gonna exercise in the morning, and you're gonna go out and go clean up the area, and then if there's fires, you're gonna go fight fires, and when you come back from your regular day, you do exercise again, and then you go into your dorm.
Oh, wow. Now, in these places, where with the youth facilities, is there similar politics that you might find at a prison, or it's a different thing?
It was not as bad as it is now, but yeah, there's you don't associate with people of different races.
Okay.
It's always if you're from LA County and you're Hispanic, Mexican American, that's who you're kicking it with. There's no you don't go and interact with anybody else. You and
That's
that's
just so that's similar to what it would be like when you were older.
oh yeah, and worse when you're in prison because you can't even talk to them.
Wow.
Yeah.
And were there any fellow members of your gang or friends who were also in the system with you at that time?
They went to different areas in the camp system. Like
Okay.
the one that got busted with me, he went to a different camp.
So you're on your own at this point.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that was the first time my dad. So the hard part about it was I hadn't seen my dad in years,
Yeah.
and I got called for a visit, and it was my sisters used to come with their husbands to visit me
Yeah.
because they were my one that raised me was upset that I was already going down that path.
Yeah.
And so I go to visit one day, And they tell me go to the counselor's office, and I go, I'm going to visit. My family's here, and the counselor goes, no, go to your counselor's office. I go, but I have visitors. She goes, go to your counselor's office. So I went, I knock on the door, and my counselor's sitting at his desk. I could peek through the door, right? And he goes, come in. And I open the door, and I see my sister, my brother-in-law, and then I see my dad. Yeah. And then I see my other sister, my brother-in-law. And I walk in, and I'm like, wow. And he goes, I think that someone came here to see you, Mr. Haro, my counselor. And I got him, I hugged him. I backed up and I sat down. And my dad was like this. And when he looked up, he was crying. And he said, he said, out of all my sons, why you? And that one really hit me in the gut, man. Like
Yeah.
literally made me feel so uncomfortable. Uh, and I was trying to calm him down, not to cry, and I'm gonna
Had you seen him
change.
cry before? Or was it?
Never, first
That was the
time.
first time.
Yeah, first time.
Oh
And it
man.
was me making him cry.
Yeah.
And so it was rough. And I was like telling him anything I could tell him to stop him from crying and make him believe I'm gonna change my life. But by then, the gang lifestyle's already embedded in me, man. The talons are set. I'm representing. It doesn't matter. I'm not gonna change my life right now.
Did you believe when you were telling him, hey, things are going to change? Did you believe that, or was it just to help alleviate
I was
the
just
pain?
trying to tell him so he can not cry.
But you knew in your heart that you were.
Oh yeah, I was already ready to get down, and when I got out, I was ready to just get busy.
When did you get out
I
from
got out
at 6, 17, 18
1980.
years? So you were at 18, 19 at this point, or?
No, I was almost 18. I got out
Okay.
when I was 17.
And as soon as you get out, you hit the ground running. You're back with the gang and
Oh yeah,
on the streets again.
yeah.
And then what happens from there?
I did a few more gang banging excursions here to hit these guys and just going crazy.
Was it
And
always with the
what
the
that rival?
Baldwin?
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't stand them, and they couldn't. They didn't like us. And one day, uh, I'm driving past this guy's house in our own town in my neighborhood.
On your side?
Yeah, and I hear these shots coming from this house. And you could hear them whizzing by my motorcycle.
So they were shooting at you.
Oh yeah. So I got mad, and so I took vengeance and I shot that pad up, and then I shot another pad up who I thought was involved, and the guy knew it was me, and he called the cops, and they got me and one of my buddies and put us in jail.
And that's when you went to the
I
prison.
went to YA,
OYA.
Youth Authority, for 3 years, and I did like a year. Got out, violated uh, for using drugs, but they gave me a year. I got out in 10 months and got out after that. And then I picked up another crime 6 months after I got out. And the
Wow.
irony with that, it was when I got out of YA, I was going to school to be a psych tech.
So you went back to school.
I did go back to school. One of my friends that grew up in the neighborhood got out of the gang, and he was telling me, "You need to become a
It was right. We're gonna have to cut.
Switch the battery.
Yeah.
Okay.
timeout."
Yeah. Time.
Cool.
Some water.
I was gonna say we need a break. Break time.
And you know, Ronnie, what's the mindset that I see, with some of the kids that I work with at the schools. I remember when it was, so I was having a conversation with a student who had said, hey, my mom's gone, my dad's gone. I'm staying in a foster care system. And he started talking about how that made him feel. And the statement, more or less, was if the people who are supposed to love you the most abandon you, your mindset is, I can't count on anybody. If I can't count on because there's that whole, you're my child, is an instinctive thing where you should love them.
Yeah.
If those two bail on you, then anyone else coming into your life is fully capable of the same, if not worse.
Yeah.
Is the mindset. It's like the ultimate form of rejection.
Yeah, it
Is the
was
way
rejection,
he's explained it.
abandonment, rejection. Um, your home's supposed to be the place where you feel safe,
Yeah.
secure, loved, and that wasn't the case growing up. It was a journey for me, and for whatever reason I chose the path that I did. I know that deep down inside there was a spiritual tugging at me.
Throughout that.
Well, because my dad used to pray when I was a kid. He used to get on his knees and pray.
Wow.
And, I used to listen to him and he would pray in Spanish. He'd take me to church, Catholic church. And I would
Did you
say,
do like first communion and everything?
I did that, but then I stopped. I used to go with them and I used to ask them, what are they saying? Because they spoke in Latin
Yeah.
back in the 70s.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
I was going to
They
say
didn't do it in
Spanish.
English. They didn't do Mass in English. They did it in Latin.
So how would you know?
That's what I told him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand what they're saying. He said, just be quiet and listen. Listen to
Listen.
what? I'm like, what?
What am I listening
So
for?
after he left, I never went to church. And I didn't go back to church for years until I went to the juvenile camp. I went to church, reconnected a little, and then went to YA, got back into church, and tried to live for God. But it was just too hard because that gang identity
Yeah.
was already formed. Like I didn't have a chance to form an identity opposite of the gang because I was always involved with the gang since a young kid, through my brothers, through my friends.
Yeah.
So was no other identity options for me to choose from.
Well, just you mentioned this term identity. It's not even something that consciously goes through our minds at that age. That it's even a thing.
Yeah.
I think it's in retrospect that we go, okay, I identified as this and saw myself as this. And that's why all my behavior now had to be consistent
Yeah.
with that.
You're gonna do what they ask.
But at the time, you just like feel like you're making your own choices. You're really not.
Right.
You're on this track, this
So when I
identity
tried to
track.
form that, I changed that identity years ago, right?
Yeah.
And I was no longer that person. Like I said, I'm done. And it was a struggle.
Do you feel like you had starts and stops?
No, not after I changed in prison.
You were just, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, because one thing's for sure, gang members don't like when other gang members get out and go to Jesus. They don't want them playing with God.
I remember a story you told me now. I'm going to ask you on camera where you were in prison. You had told them, hey, I'm moving on. And I think you were like waiting to see what kind of retaliation there would be.
I
You remember that?
actually spoke to my brother before I did anything. I know that I wanted to do that. Sorry
Uh-huh.
about that. Almost. See?
it's about the right size, huh? Was that battery pack?
It's my little battery, yeah. Big old battery.
You have a backup battery?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, we're hooking up right now. I think Alexis forgot to charge it last night. It's all good. I'm getting footage right here, right now, anyway. So you
Oh,
can
okay.
keep on rolling if you want it, Mr. I.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
So we left off and you were talking about you were out of prison from what? You went YA 3 years
Yeah,
and then you came out.
I came out, went back for another 10 months for a violation of parole, and got out. And then I enrolled in school because one of my ex homeboys who got out.
He got out.
No, he was done. He just wanted to become a working class guy.
Now, when you do that, when you're like, I'm done, do they leave you alone? Do they?
Yeah, they left him alone. Back then, all these rules that are enforced now in prison and on the streets, it wasn't like that.
So you could walk away and that was it.
Well, no, if they caught you, you would get dealt with, but it wasn't as tense as it is now.
It was a
where-
beat down and
Yeah,
move on.
because I remember jumping some guys out that wanted out. 'Cause
Okay.
their wives wanted them to get out, and so they beat the daily
They took a
booties
beat.
inside out. Yeah, two of them. Yeah, and then later on, one of them, his house kept getting shot up, and He came to my house one day and he said, "Hey, these dudes keep coming to my house and shooting it up. Man, they need a gun." I go, "You're asking the wrong person. You don't belong to the gang anymore."
Oh,
And he was
wow.
surprised. Yeah, I didn't like doing that, but I told him his name was Eddie. I said, "Eddie,
If
you
you're
know, you
out,
got jumped out, dude. So I can't help you. You should have stayed."
wow.
Yeah. So
Was that hard for you to do, or was it just did it
not
just
for him, no, because he for whatever reason went back and forth, and that was
did,
his issue.
you
I
didn't
mean,
respect that?
no.
So you
Mm.
so you go back to school for a little bit, and then what happens from there?
So I enroll in school to become a psychiatric technician, right? And because my friend's already won, he's making good money. He said, "You're gonna make good money. You can work at one of the mental health hospitals." So I enroll in school and I'm going, doing really well, mind you, passing. I already had got my GED, by the way. I got my GED and all that in youth authority.
Wow, so you never left education. You were
No,
still
while I was
working
incarcerated, I was going to school all this time.
the whole time. Wow.
Yeah, and in YA in 1983, I got my GED. They literally drove me down from the facility to the adult school, and I took the test, and I passed. I was that happy. So I was like, cool, that's one thing knocked out of the way now.
Yeah.
And then got out and messed up. So it was 6 months after I got out in July that a friend picked me up from my house with my sister, and we went cruising around. And I said, "Hey, this person got out. I saw him the other day when I was visiting my ex-wife with my daughter." And he goes, "Well, why are you with that guy? Were you at his house?" I go, "Yeah, he was doing tattoos." He goes, "You don't know about that guy?" And I said, "I don't know anything about what happened. I just got out." He said, "He's informing me, informed." And I said, "Oh my God, right?" So for a gang member, that's the worst kind of thing you want to associate yourself with.
An informer.
Yeah. So I got like what the heck, right? So I devised a scheme and I asked him, "Well, who?" And he goes, "Well, do you remember this and that?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, yeah, so it was me." And I go, "Wow." I go, "So why are you letting him out here and be out here in the streets?" I'm turning it on him now, right? Because I don't want to be tainted. So he goes, "Well, he knows I'm trying to get him." And I go, "Well, the perfect opportunity." So I'm calling his bluff, right?
Yeah.
Because after that, I don't want to hear about it that I didn't want to do nothing with him or whatever. Well, he took it all the way and said, "Okay, let's go do this."
Oh, and you didn't expect that.
No, and I didn't expect I was going to get caught either, but no criminal does, right?
Yeah. You don't plan to get
So
caught.
he was making excuses at first. He was saying, "Well, he won't come out for me." And I go, "Well, he'll come out for me." He goes, "Well, I don't got a gun." I said, "We got plenty of guns at the where we keep them at." He goes, "Okay, well, let's do it." So
What was pressing you on to want to do it? Was it because he
I
had
wanted to make
informed?
sure that if he said he didn't want to do it, that he could never say,
Oh, okay, you just want to clear your name from the
"That's
whole
it."
thing,
That's what was my goal.
and he kept pushing it.
While he was trying to get out of it some
Yeah,
way or another, but then I kept pushing it towards him to make sure, hey,
we tried, and you
you,
said
you
no.
said no, I don't want to do it. And
Yeah,
but then he said, because the excuses were excuses, and I covered every one of them. And then he was like, I go, "So yeah, if you want a gun, I'll get you a gun. But hey, it's up to you because it's your issue. It's not my issue. I've been in jail.
yeah.
I've been in prison, youth authority." And he goes, "Okay, well, let's do it." So I called. I got the gun.
Oh man,
It was a 12 gauge shotgun and loaded up. And I'm telling them this is the way it's gonna go. And I'm gonna go ahead and call him out, and you're gonna handle your business, my friend. And that's the way it went down. And he ended up dying, you know. Yeah, and it's sad because this is the guy that was close to my brother. He was one of the gang members, one of the homeboys,
yeah.
and he was close to my brother. And my brother had a baby boy from his sister, so that's how close this guy was to our family.
Oh man.
Yeah, and so he
Did you
died.
did you, were you did you in that moment, did you feel any remorse
Uh,
or was it just let's handle business? And,
no, I was handling business, and then it wasn't until years later that I knew that, you know what, should have never did that. But back then, going to trial and all that, you know, you're putting up a good front. You know,
yeah.
you couldn't care two hoots about what happened. He did what he did, and you know, justifying. But then it wasn't until years later that I felt, man, you played God. You try to play God and take someone's life out of this world, and you're not God, and you need to repent, and you need to be remorseful about what you did.
Wow.
And so eventually that happened because I they caught us,
Yeah. You
and
went to
they
trial.
went to trial for over a year, and we got found guilty, and I got 26 years to life, and my co-defendant got 32 years to life.
So when you say 26 years to life, that means that 26 will be the minimum that you will have to do. And then if you have good behavior, there's an option to
Right,
parole.
right,
But if you keep getting caught up, you could stay in for life.
yeah,
When you heard that sentence, I always wonder about this. You're in the courtroom and you're listening to your sentencing.
yeah,
When you heard the judge say 26 to life,
yeah.
what crosses your mind in that moment?
Sadness for my sister because she's the one that broke down and cried. She was
But
crying.
you didn't really feel
Oh no, I'm already a hardcore gang member,
you're
not
numb.
caring about any of that. Like, you know what? They tried to get me to snitch too and tell, right, and inform.
Yeah.
And the second time the detective tried to get me to say anything, I told him, what part of me telling you I don't want to talk to you don't you understand? And he said, okay, and he closed his book and took off. Because I told him I'm not talking to you. And that's the way it is. And he took off.
He wanted you to turn
What
into
happened? We know this and we know that. I said, I don't
yeah.
care. I don't want to talk to you.
You
And that
stood
was it.
by
Oh yeah, the code.
the code.
Yeah. And
And the other guy stood by it.
oh yeah.
And did you guys end up doing time together?
We did. We ended up on 3 different yards together. And then I split to a lower level and it took him years. By the time he got there I was already gone, and then you have to do 2/3 of your sentence before you're even eligible for parole. And they'll consider you, but
So
they don't,
math wise, that would be
like 16 years, 8 months.
wow.
And I went to parole board, and that was so here in California. I guess in every state, the victim's family can come and contest your
Parole.
release. Yeah, your date, getting a date. So my first hearing, I already started changing my life, you know, and that was
Yeah.
like happy, you know. Uh, Matter of fact, I had changed in 1991. So when I went to board, I had wanted to. I've been waiting so many years, man, to tell the family how sorry I was because I knew them.
Yeah.
And so, but I didn't know if they were coming, and nobody told me they were coming. They're supposed to advise the person, hey, these people are coming to make an impact statement against you. Well, nobody told me nobody was coming, so I thought, well, nobody's coming. Well, I knew the CO, and I'm in the holding cell, waiting to go out into the hearing room,
Yeah.
and the CO says, hey, there's like 5 people out there. I go, what?
Oh.
I go, what are they? They're like female, male. He goes, there's 2 females and 2 males and an older gentleman.
Did you know at that moment who that was?
I did not. So I go, wow. So I went in the room, and it was the gentleman that we murdered, sister, their father, the sister my brother was with, and my nephew, and then
Your nephew.
my nephew
Oh,
looked just
man.
like my brother.
Was your brother there?
No, no, no. And the son of the other sister. So the parole board has strict rules. You can't look at them. If you're gonna address them, you're gonna look at us, and then you will address them that way. You
Yeah.
can tell them what you feel or think, but you can't look at it. So
Okay.
I'm like, I'm having a hard time because I'm looking at my brother almost,
Yeah.
because he's my nephew. And I'm like, because my brother's Güero, and this kid was Güero, and I'm like, what? It's crazy. So we went through the hearing, man, and they said, do you want to speak? And I said, absolutely. And they said, well, what do you want to say? And I said, well, I want to tell Mr. Merez and his family that I'm deeply sorry for what I did to Michael, and that I should have never did it, and that I pray for that at some point in his life he can forgive me. And I was crying, started crying. They were crying. My nephew was crying, and I'm looking at him, and they have to admonish me, hey, quit looking over there, and I'm crying. I said, look, I waited all these years
16 plus years.
to tell you that I'm sorry,
Wow.
and that I want to be forgiven for what I did, and that he didn't deserve to die. He did not. I said, today I look at it as it was none of my business, and Mike should have never suffered that kind of murder. And I was crying. Well, when I stopped and I told them, and I did all that, and they're asking me why I did it and what drove you from a little child who played baseball
Yeah.
to committing this crime. You need to explain that to us. Like, how do you go from a nice family playing softball, playing hardball, playing basketball, to becoming a gang member, to eventually committing a 187? And I didn't have all the answers because I was still young,
Yeah.
and I hadn't went through therapy. I didn't understand a lot of stuff.
You weren't quite sure what was.
I couldn't put all that stuff in words for them to express it to them,
Yeah.
but one thing that I was so happy about was the father looked at me, Mr. Merez, and he said, Randy, I forgive you, man.
Wow.
That was like, boom, a weight off my shoulders. But the sisters were like, I can't forgive him. My brother, I was there when he was crying for his last breath. You don't understand. He didn't deserve it. You guys did that to him for nothing. And that was Rebecca, because I knew Rebecca as well.
Yeah.
It was rough. It was a rough time in there. I got all the transcripts from them times, man.
Yeah.
If I go back and read them, I'll be like tripping. But the good thing is the father forgave me, man, and the sisters, whether they forgave me or not, I knew at some point that it was in God's hands, because I couldn't do anything about it anymore. I sought it. I asked him, and every time I went to board, the Becky was there, and she would speak. And so the very last time that I went to board, which was in 2012, it was things were changing with the laws in California with regard to people with life sentence. So I went to board. Excuse me. I went to board, the parole board, and they granted me a date, and they literally shut her down. She was in San Diego and she was doing it via like Zoom.
Yeah.
I don't know if they called it Zoom back then.
Yeah. Back then.
2012, but she was there and she was crying and screaming, and because they said we find you suitable for parole, Mr. Haro, and I was like crying, thank you, you don't know what that means to me. That was 26 years later, 27 years later.
So in all, what year did you go in for that
I
27
went
years?
in 1985.
So in 1985, you go into prison. You come out what year?
2012.
So from 85 to 2012, you're incarcerated.
Yeah. I went at 85. Was I 22? Yeah, 22, and I came out at 49. 49-year-old.
What does that do for you, as far as like how do you keep going being in there so long,
Right.
and not just throwing in the towel?
I think as human beings, we have a way of being able to deal with stuff that's thrown our way, and you have to find that and go deep within yourself and just radically accept that you can't change this situation. And the only way that you may ever see the light of day is if you change your life. And that's when I began. Early in my term. I went to school. I did everything.
So you go in, and you're 22. You said.
Yeah.
What age are you when you decide, hey, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna turn things around.
I believe I was 28 years old. It was 6 years in.
So
And
6 years in, was there a
during,
turning or a significant event that you said, oh, I'm done. I'm going a different direction.
I was getting, so 6 years I was in there,
Hmm.
smoking pot, drinking manufactured alcohol that we make in there, snorting
Wow.
cocaine.
All of that in the in the.
It's there. It's even worse now. Back then it was hard to get in. Now it's like, you know, everybody has something going on in there. But I thank God that I got out, by the way, because it's really bad in there. But I was doing all that for the 6 years. And then in 1991, I just had some kind of epiphany, man, that you know what? I did all this stuff, banged hard, you
Yeah.
know, hurt a lot of people, gang banging, committed this crime, and all for what? To be here locked up for the rest of my life with these people who try to run and dictate our programs, and I'm like, nah, I'm kind of done. So I want peace. So I called my brother.
Yeah. Is he
Who
still in the gang life at
My
that point?
brother still, he's running the gang. He's like, has a shots calling duties. Back then he
Yeah.
was.
He's a shot caller.
And I said, hey, he goes, what's going on? I said, I'm tired. He goes, tired of what? I said, tired of this lifestyle, tired of being a gang member, tired of being part of Baldwin Park. And he got quiet on me. And he goes, what are you saying? I go, I'm just tired, bro. I said, everything I've been doing, I did for everybody else, for the gang, for the homies,
Yeah.
you know, for stripes or whatever. I said, but I never did anything for me. Like, I'm tired. I said, besides, there's a lot of hypocrisy in prison, if you don't know. And he said, I know. So he goes, okay, well, you know, you ain't gonna be able to hang with the homeboys anymore. I said, I got that. I don't want to hang with them anymore. I'm done. He goes, okay. He started laughing. And I said, well, why are you laughing? He goes, yeah, well, you know, I may not be able to help you anymore. And I go, well, that's fine. I'm a grown man. I was 28.
Were during that time were they putting money on your books or?
No, nobody was taking care of me. My sister occasionally sent me a package. They bought me a TV.
So like if you're a gang member and you go to jail doing gang activity, is it typical that the gang helps out
They
and
do now, yeah. That evolved over the years that I was in prison, where they'll
yeah,
take care of each other. They'll give you a radio. They'll give you soups, beans, whatever.
put stuff on your? Oh no, but would people from the outside put money on your books?
Uh, I could have had that if I wanted to early on,
Yeah,
because my nephews were from the same gang, my little brothers were from the same gang.
but you didn't want.
I told them I don't want none of that stuff, man. I don't want to be obligated to nobody.
I see.
Like, don't ask me. I don't want nothing from nobody out there. So one of the things my brother told me was, he goes, okay, I'm going to support you. Let me tell you how it's going to roll. Don't take nothing from these dudes that are tipped up, not even a one suit. They're going to ask you, you want it here, you want some canteen, you want a radio, you know, you want a TV here. He said, if you take it, you're obligated. So don't take nothing. That's number one.
Yeah,
He said, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. I go, what is it? He goes, don't play with God. Because if you play with God, they're going to stick you and get you out of there.
what do you mean play with God?
Like, become a Christian. Because I told him
Oh,
I was going to. So this is what I told my brother.
so if you became a Christian, now you become a target.
This is what I was telling him. Look, I'm tired. I want peace. I've been destructive. I need to love me. And I need to find my own path. He goes, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to go to church. And then he got quiet. And that's when he told me, oh, okay, I'm going to support you. And don't do this, don't do that, do this or that, and don't play with God. That's all the only thing I'm gonna ask you, because you know the homies will take you off the yard, you know. And so I said, you ain't gotta worry about that, bro. I said the way that I serve the gang is the way I'm gonna serve God, and I mean that.
Now,
And he goes,
when you decide something like that, do they remove you from the general population?
no, no, because I had 4 homeboys on the yard
Yeah.
on that particular facility from the same neighborhood. So the next day after I spoke with my brother, I went out there and I said, hey, I need to talk to you guys. And they all came. And I go, I just want to tell you, I spoke with my brother yesterday. And I don't want to be a part of this anymore. And they go, what are you talking about?
Did that take a lot of courage for you to
It
do?
did. Oh, man.
What did you expect was going to be the response?
I didn't know what it was going to be.
Did it ever cross your mind that you could potentially be taken out right then and there? Or did you feel like,
It wasn't until when I told them, they go, well,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? I said, I don't want to be a part of this. Well, what are you saying? I go, I don't want to be a part of Bone Park no more. That's what I'm saying. They go, what? I go, yeah, I don't want to be a part of it no more. And they were like, what's going on with you? I go, I'm just tired. I said, you guys know everything that I've done, and you guys know that I've done a lot of stuff for the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I said so much that here I am with a life sentence, right? And they go, yeah, well, we understand that. So they were like, well, what are you gonna do? You can't hang with us on the yard no more.
you're on your own?
What if the Norteños come after you? I go, if they come after me, they shouldn't come after me. They go, well, what are you gonna do? I go, you see the chapel? They go, yeah. I go, you see them guys on the yard over there with the Bibles? That's where I'm gonna be from now on. What are you gonna do if the Crips or Bloods want to take off on you? I said, if they take off on me, I either did something wrong or had that coming, because I'm not gonna do anything to them to get them to try and get at me.
Yeah.
So they go, well, you know what? Well, let us go talk. So they went and talked. That's when I started thinking.
Oh, they start having a meeting right in front of you?
They took it down the road because they want to talk openly.
In the yard?
Yeah, it's on the yard by the handball
And
court.
you're waiting to see
I'm sitting by the chapel. I'm like, I'm thinking, man, these guys can come over here and just do some stuff to me right now.
Yeah.
They came back and they said, you know what, man? We love you, man. I go, I love you too. It's obvious. Look what I've done my entire life. They go, that's what you want to do, man. Then that's what you want to do. You just can't kick it with us no more. I go, I'm fine with that. Are you okay? They said, yeah. And that's how that began.
And from then on, no talking, no communication.
Nah, I mean, they started. My co-defendant was with me on the same facility.
Oh, okay.
You know, but they didn't have the heart to become a Christian either because they were worried about what the guys would say. Because over there, it's all south.
So from that day forth, you go in the chapel, you get your Bible, and you're hanging with these new guys.
Yeah.
And what is their response? Like, is it welcome, open arms, or come, brother, or what is it with the new guys?
Oh yeah.
Because they've known you've been on the yard that whole time, right? And that you're with the gang, and
Yeah.
now you come over to them. What was
They
that
were,
conversation?
they were open arms. They, you know, because they're trying to get their life together with Jesus and God as well. So,
So they understood your decision and where you're coming from.
yeah.
Wow. So this is 6 years in, and so the next 21 years, you're living in prison as a Christian.
Trying to become the Christian that I need to be, despite the fact that I'm in this environment where it's pretty tough. And so I went to 9 different prisons,
Yeah.
and every prison I went to, I had to reestablish that I was a Christian with the guys from down south. Like, hey, well, who you running with, man?
Was every new establishment a meeting, like the one at the first? Like, oh, let's talk about what we're gonna do with this guy, or was it kind of just like, okay,
No, I would get there, and so if you're from down south, they automatically put you with a south person from down south.
yeah,
That's the way CDC did it. If you're from up north, you go with the north. If you're Paisa, you go with Paisa. If you're native, you go with the native.
yeah,
You know, and that's just the way they worked it, right? So every time I get there, I'd go with a dude from south, and bunk up with a Sureño, and they were
Explain
like,
your situation.
I would tell them I'm Christian, and then the dude that has the building, hey, what's going on? Well, I'm a Christian, and
Yeah.
okay, well, just watch your back, with
So
everybody
you
else
don't.
around.
So you don't have to follow the program.
No,
The wake up in the morning, the exercising, the
no, no.
you do your own program.
Yeah, and I was grateful. And all that stuff started coming in like in the late
Oh,
80s,
the
early
program
90s. Yeah, in the
implementation.
early 90s. Yeah, all that stuff started changing like the 90s, 2000s,
Okay.
where they were doing all that and
And you were
becoming.
already out.
No, I got out in
No,
2012.
no, I
Oh,
mean
I
like
mean,
you're
not
out of
part of
the
that.
you're out of
Yeah.
the
Oh,
gang.
yeah.
So as you're doing your walk along the way, are there any challenges in there where like, hey, we know you're with the Christians, but we're gonna need you to put in some work, or
No,
no requests coming your way, nothing?
no, I'm sure they would have liked it like that, but
Yeah.
it wasn't until the last facility I was at in 2009,
What
10,
was your last facility? Was it
Solano. I was in
Solana?
Solano, yeah, CSP Solano, and there was this youngster who used to get high on heroin all the time, and he was a banger. He had 2 life sentences,
And he's in there with you, and he
and
knows,
by then I'm in a dormatory setting. We're
and he
not his
knows he
house.
knows your status.
He knows I'm Christian,
Okay.
but he used to ask me these rhetorical questions.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do if these guys from up north or the Crips or Bloods get off? I go, what do I'm gonna do? I'm a Christian. I'm gonna pray for them. And he'd be like, well, you ain't gonna help the homies. I go, like, why would I help the homies if I'm a Christian? And he goes, well, I don't think that's right. I'm like, well, I don't think it's right that you would ask someone that's serving God to be a hypocrite and walk away from God for a minute to go beat up somebody with you. And then he goes, well, that ain't right, man. I don't even know why you're bunking up with one of us. I go, well, you need me to talk to somebody or what's up? And he was like, well, I don't think it's right, man. We're going to see what's up, man. So I just got fed up because he used to come try to harass me every once in a while.
Yeah.
So I went to the dude that has the facility, the building. I said, hey, come here. Because I knew him. I'm tired of this guy who has a yard. I'm going to go talk to this guy that has this whole yard right here that I'm not going to get involved if there's any riots. And that's it. I'm just letting you know, man, because this guy seems to think I'm going to get involved. He goes, ooh, and I told him, he goes, let me go out and talk to the big homie on the yard, right? And I was like, okay. And so he went out, he came back, he said, don't worry about it. I'll talk to him and you just kick back. He said, the only thing we're going to ask you is wear your shoes to the shower. That's it. Because that's a rule. You wear no slippers to the shower. You have to wear your shoes to be ready for whatever. But
So
it was
you
more of a making them not look bad.
so you shower with your shoes on,
No, you shower with your chanclas. You just put the shoes outside, but you don't go back and forth from the shower to
barefoot, because that
Or
makes you
chanclas,
that makes
with
you
your
vulnerable
chanclas, yeah.
if something happens. And so you wear the shoes.
I said, that's a deal. I said,
Wow.
that's an easy deal. I'm like,
I can wear
of
shoes.
course.
So talk about your last days, knowing that you're about to get out.
Right.
You're in your last days. Are they the longest, or after 27 years?
No, they were coming, and the governor has 30 days after the 90-day period where you got granted parole to reverse the decision. And so I would just wait in those last 30
To
days.
see if
But while I was there, I worked in the law library. I was helping a lot of dudes get out of prison. I was filing writs of habeas
so you
corpus.
stayed busy.
Oh yeah, I was educating myself always.
Was that part of the strategy, to stay busy and be educated?
I always wanted to be educated. It didn't matter. I read a lot. I studied a lot. I got like, I want to say 70 units. I took mill and cabinet. I took HVAC.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did HVAC. I did, I studied Microsoft.
So you had all these
Word
skills.
already. Yeah, I got all this stuff that I was going because the board required me to have some kind of skills. So I was going for broke. I was just getting all
Good-
this stuff.
good
I
for
took
you.
a paralegal course through correspondence.
Yeah.
Got certified as a paralegal, and then ended up working in a law library for a good few years of my life in there.
So okay, so my friend, I went to go pick him up. We grew up together, and he ended up in prison, and he was in Tracy at the time.
Right.
So I go pick him up from Tracy to give him a ride back home to Central Valley, right? Took the day off from work, pick him up. And I remember we got out, and I'm like, all right, well, we're finally out. What's the first thing you want to do? He goes, I've been watching this Carl's Jr. commercial for the
Oh
last
yeah.
6 months. And he went to Carl's Jr. He wanted a bacon double cheeseburger.
Wow.
When you first got out, what was your first move?
My sisters, they go, what do you want? I told them I want chile relleno.
Chile relleno,
Yeah.
homemade or?
Homemade. It took them hours to do it.
And when you walked out after 27 years, your first steps out, what was it? Thanking God. What did you?
Yeah.
What was going through
Well, I
your
got
mind?
in the van because they transport you from the receiving and release all the way to the parking lot where the family waits.
Oh, okay.
And my
So in that ride, that's your last ride, and
yeah, so the officer goes, "Who's the rock star in here?" I'm not knowing what he's talking about.
yeah.
He goes, "Who's been in for a long time?" And nobody put their hand up, so I said, "I have." He goes, "Are you a lifer?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Is that your family out there that's waiting for you?" I go, "Well, I don't know." He goes, "There's like 25 people out there."
Oh, what?
And I said, "What?" He goes, "Yeah."
25 people.
I go, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Yeah, there's like carloads out there waiting for you to get out. Is that for you?" I go, "I can't be sure, but I know that they're waiting for me to come out." So was my sister, her children, my other sisters, my brothers, my nephew, like all kinds of my friends,
All
couple
those people
friends.
showed up, and you had no idea.
I had no idea. And the officer said, "Can you tell these guys not to come back?" I go, "Dude, it's not worth it. I spent 27. I said, it's not worth it. You need to change your life." And they were like looking at me like,
And your words carry weight.
I don't know if it
Putting
did or
yeah,
didn't. I
putting
just told them.
27 years in.
Yeah.
I'm still in awe. I remember the first time meeting you, and we were talking about it, and you said, "Yeah, I ended up doing some time." I think you're gonna say like 2 years, 3 years. I've never met anyone. And when you said 27, I don't know if you remember. I was like, "Randy, did you say 27?" You was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
27."
27.
That's Mandela, right? Mandela
Yeah.
did 20. Wasn't it 27 years?
Yeah. Like something like that.
It's a political. Wow. So you got out there, the whole family's greeting you,
Yeah.
and and what are you feeling in that moment? Just love, or
I'm just tripping. And my sister's crying.
does it
and
feel like a
hugging me.
dream a little bit, or
It was surreal.
and your first night as a free man, waking up the next morning, no routine, no bars,
Yeah.
no cell. How long does that take to adapt
It
to?
was just quiet. Like really quiet. I was ready to go when I got out. I was
So it's
ready
just
to get a job.
peace.
I had already made some goals and commitments to my wife, who married me when I was in prison.
Okay,
My
so how
name.
did you meet your wife?
I met her through her working in the prison, and then we ended up writing each other.
So
And
corresponding.
yeah,
And how many years
uh,
of correspondence
not
prior
even
to you
six
being?
months because that was something that you shouldn't be doing.
Oh,
So they terminated her and moved me to a different yard, and we still kept in contact though. And she took a leap of faith, man, because her whole family Mexicanos,
yeah.
and their family. She was telling them, "Well, I met this guy. He's in prison. He's a lifer. I want to get with him." And they're like, "You're out of your stinking mind. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Are you going?"
Doesn't sound like, an ideal situation, obviously. And you were at 49, and at that age, you had no prior marriage or children?
Yeah, I had two girls
Two girls,
before I went to
prison.
YA.
Oh,
I
okay.
had two girls, and then
And where were they being raised
with their mothers. They're
in LA?
two different females. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they're educated and they're doing very well.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then when you get out, your wife is there and you
Yeah,
start building
she's
your
there.
life.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so she lived in Hanford, but parole told me I couldn't live in Hanford because my crime was in Los Angeles. So they said you got to go to LA. So I went to LA. I went to a residential facility for 5 months. and then I went to a transitional home for a year where they paid for everything. And I had a job. 30 days after I got out, I got a job. And it was in Santa Monica, 5 blocks from the beach, 3 blocks from the promenade.
Oh yeah, I know where that is. Third
Yeah,
Street.
so yeah, that's third. So we were on 7th, and it
It's
was
a
a
nice
building.
area.
Well, I got a job through this place where they hire ex-felons. So my first job, because they send you everywhere. Well, you just, hey, you're an ex-felon, we got work for you, don't trip. Wow, I went to Skid Row. I literally took the bus, went to this hotel that they had converted into low-income living,
Yeah.
and they wanted me to just stand guard and clean up a little bit, and I did all that. And
This is with the were there rows of tents at that time? Like
huh?
Skid Row, was it just lined
Oh
up with
man, you
tents
could
and
just smell the. It's always been like that. Reeks of urine and feces and
wow. I've
that's
been down
sad.
there once or
It's sad.
twice and it's
Well,
an
I'm
ex
walking right through that stuff, right? And I'm like, man, they better not mess with me, right? Because I'm trying not to get in trouble no more.
yeah.
And so, about a month later, I told my family, hey, in order to be a little bit more successful and eligible to work different areas, I need a car. So she put a shout out to all my family, and they raised $3,000, and they got me a little putt putt. Got me a 2001, I think it was
Call it
2001,
putt putt.
an Avalon. Yeah. Well, we're in 2012 already.
Yeah.
20, yeah. I bought a Avalon. It had 170,000 miles on it, but that thing worked.
A to B.
And it
From
got
point
me
A
over
to
here. It
point
got me from LA to here quite a few times because I used to come every other week
to
to get
visit.
gas.
When did you finally permanently become a resident of Kings County?
3 years after I got out. It was a long time, but
And so how long have you been here now?
since 2015. Bought a
2015.
house, by the way.
Congrats. So you're a homeowner. Now you're a business owner, right?
Yeah, I am a business owner.
And what's your current business?
Transitional homes for parolees.
So
Get
the
out of
very thing that you first transitioned into, you are now offering that to someone
I
else.
am. I am.
And what role has God played in all of this?
I God has played a significant role in my life. I think that everything that we have or anything we ever did was because of Him. I don't think I'd be where I'm at today if I didn't have God. If I literally didn't have God in my life, I would not be out of prison. And so I'm very grateful, and I know that there's a message in all this. And I didn't tell you that when I was in prison, when I went to the SAP yard, that I became the lead uh, Bible study teacher on the yard at night.
Oh, no, you didn't say that.
Yeah, for 5 years. I did it
Wow.
for 5 years.
So you were sharing the word with others,
Studying the Bible, reading the lexicon, the Greek lexicon.
doing his work in prison.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Bringing a lot of guys to the Lord. They
Man.
were afraid though. No, I can't do it right now. I'm like, come on, man. It's the best time to do it. Nah, maybe when I get out. Okay, well, alrighty. But so being filled with God's
Spirit,
words
yeah.
and reading His Word and learning the different dynamics of the Greek and being it applied to my life. I mean, mind you, my wife wasn't Christian when I met her. She was Catholic.
Yeah.
But I never told her she had to change. I said, look, I'm only going to share the word with you, and whenever the Lord leads you, you do whatever He wants you to do. And sure enough, there was a day where she met Jesus Christ as a personal Savior, and she was like tripping. Like she said, I had joy like I never had in my life.
Wow.
So He played a significant role, and today He does still. I feel like I could be doing a whole lot more with the Word of God. Like
Yeah.
I am providing housing for these guys, and
Yeah.
a lot of people ask me, why would you put prisoners or like ex-prisoners, felons in your home? Because one home we own in Visalia, the other one I lease. But they're like, why would you put guys that came out of prison into your own home? And I would have to tell them, it's like you're telling me that I wouldn't be worthy to come out and come into one of these homes if I came out. That's what you're telling me. And they would be shocked, like, wow. And I'm like, yeah, how you're looking at them, you're looking at me like that too, because I was one of them. and I happened to change my life. So you can't look at them like that. You have to look at a different screen and filter to see them as human beings and give them a shot. That's all you got to do. So they stopped telling me, why was I providing housing for them, you
Because
know?
they were. Wow.
Yeah, so
So what would you say, given everything you've gone through, right? I believe that at some point there's going to be, young man or woman who's currently on a similar path, and they're going to come across this interview. What words of wisdom or message would you share with them?
I think that we all go through some kind of trauma or some negativity in family life. No family's perfect. And if you get traumatized by something that went down, that there's a way out. And if you really look deep inside yourself and add your spiritual belief system with that, that you'll be able to overcome and go far. Because that's what happened with me. I suffered a lot of trauma. I mean, my mom OD'd when I was 20 on my way to YA. I didn't tell you, but she died. And they came to the county to see me and say, hey, your mom died. I'm like, no way, no way. Yes, she died. So that was that was traumatic, you know, and I felt robbed, like I would never know who my mother was because
Yeah,
she left when I was 7. She died when I was 19, and I would never know who she was.
yeah,
So with God and with all the therapy that I went through, it helped me realize something happened with my mom that she became the person she was, and I can't judge her for that. She just didn't know how to mother like she should have,
yeah.
and that's okay, and I'm okay with that. And so talking to other people, you have to get to a point where none of that can have an impact on you, because if you have goals and you know where you want to go in your life, go, and don't let this stuff be a hindrance to you any longer. It's like a weight. You have to cut it off.
That's
It's
a
a
good way to
cancer.
say that.
Yeah, it's a cancer. You got to cut the stuff off and keep going forward, and not let it bother you. So what the devil meant for bad, right? God meant for the good, because all this stuff that happened, it ended up. So everybody in my family now, they're either business owners. They're doing very well. My brother's a trucker. My sister, she's insurance. She owns an insurance company. She owns a trucking company.
Wow,
Yeah, yeah.
successful
Well,
business
I have
people.
one that has a auto insurance up north.
Yeah, everybody worked it out, huh?
My other brother's a lawyer.
We would never know your beginnings
Yeah.
with the success your family's had.
No, it's all due to God. It's all glory to God.
Amen.
It's That's the main thing I want to tell people, is it the glory belongs to the Lord. And if we allow ourselves to be used to help people in
Yeah.
other situations in this world, we'll be better off.
And you're a living testament that with God, all things are possible.
Amen. They are.
Amen. Man, Randy, I want to thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you,
in
man.
today. And I hope you guys got something good from this. I've been wanting to bring in Randy for a long time. Please like, subscribe, share. If you know someone who's in the struggle right now, share Randy's story, because I guarantee we'll touch their hearts. Until next time, love, peace, and chicken grease. This is Rob Live, and we're out.